Hello everyone, my name is Fitra Ariesta and I will present my literature review specifically on my research paper, Assessment on UNODC Strategies Against Human Trafficking in Southeast Asia. So before I continue on the literature review itself, I will provide a brief reminder of the background of my topic and the research question. So, Southeast Asia is one of the most profitable market for human trafficking, and it makes it vulnerable for the usual targeted individuals or the groups of people, making it one of the most threatening issues towards human security specifically in Southeast Asia. Now, to what extent does the involvement of DC decrease the activities of human trafficking in Southeast Asia? And if the number is immeasurable, then how does it affect the policy decisions in around national policies or domestic policies? How does it affect the region per se? So let's continue. Now, the literature review on the independent variable. First, I would like to utilize the theory of neoliberal institutionalism, which is covered by Arthur Stein, as a lens which can identify or analyze the role of UNODC. And through the book written by Stein and several journals written by Broadhurst, Hodge, Conrad, Trapp, Paulback. I'm sorry, Palmback. So these journals and with the book actually covers several points related to the independent variable. So the role of UNODC as an international organization that it has the function to facilitate cooperation and actually has the mandate to coordinate strategies which address transnational crime, specifically human trafficking in this matter. And due to that, came the establishment of Palermo Protocol, which marks the beginning of counter human trafficking efforts. So, aside from that, aside from the role of UNODC, there are several factors that needs to be considered when it comes to countering human trafficking. So you see, human trafficking, it includes the exploitation and the manipulation in the sex industry, labor forces, forced marriage, organ trafficking, money laundering, and many other sectors. It is a part of a larger organized crime syndicate. Due to the complexity of the issue, it requires a comprehensive strategy which includes the measures that covers prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership among relevant actors. And those relevant actors may include government institutions in the region, and to add, a non-governmental organizations that specifically covers the issue of human trafficking. So, due to those multidimensional factors that needs to be addressed when it comes to countering human trafficking, there are some strategies that are released by UNODC. And UNODC released a framework which encourages state commitment. It is a form of call to action for states and also for the relevant actors. Aside from providing a framework to be followed by states and non-state actors, UNODC continues to research on the market that enables the facilitation for human trafficking, such as red light districts, labor forces, and black market, specifically for organ trade. It also analyzes the pattern of trafficking in persons and what are the root causes. So there are several similarities in terms of strength and weaknesses among these journals and books. So basically, the strength include the insightful information regarding the problem areas. So from the journal provide a detailed description of the problem areas and the multi-dimensional sectors which are a part of human trafficking, and how complex are the strategies, the process of identification and investigation that needs to be taken. However, aside from the insightful and informative problem areas and the comprehensive steps, there is one similarity in the weakness. So, as for the weakness, is that there are several recommendations that are expressed vaguely or lack practicality. So they did point out a good problem in the issue and the loopholes. However, they did not fully address or being solutive when it comes to addressing those problem areas. So next would be the review on the dependent variable. So the dependent variable, it includes journals written by Renshaw, Hodge, Gallagher and Holmes, Ford, Lyons, and Fanchendel, and of course, supported by Bryan and Landman. So, what are these journals and sources covered? So, basically, um, before we actually analyze whether the reports of human trafficking decreased or increased, there are development of human trafficking activities that are highlighted within these journals. So since the Palermo Protocol, the global awareness have increased. So and there is a consensus that human trafficking is indeed a threat. It is a global threat that targeted vulnerable individuals and group of people. So because of that, uh, there are some national policies that actually take form to address the issue of human trafficking. So those national policies did not directly address the issue of human trafficking. There are some national policies that actually address the problem areas, such as economic development, border control, uh, reform in criminal justice, and law enforcement. Why are these policies actually not correlating directly into targeting the organized crime syndicate? Is because the economic development is supposed to tackle the poverty or the impoverished community. The border control is supposed to tackle the issues or the loopholes within the migration or the corruption that exists within the border. And aside from that, the corruption that exists in criminal justice and law enforcement are actually also contributing to the facilitation of human trafficking. Therefore, it hampers the whole identification of the victims and it hampers the investigation of the cases. So, aside from national policies, there are also some bilateral and multilateral agreements that take place in Southeast Asia in order to control or to counter the issue of human trafficking. So, is there any decrease of activities from all of these policies and from the global awareness? So, this is actually one of the weakness of the journals and the relevant sources. So basically, they highlighted many policies, ideas, and action plans which address the problem areas. Aside from that, there are also national policies that address the labor forces. And since the Palermo Protocol was established, states have several commitments through the national regulations, and there's actually a specific law or regulation that address the issue of human trafficking, such as in Cambodia, Laos, and Philippines. However, what's lacking is that there are so many ideas and so many policies. However, there are no continuation or development from these policies. So therefore, it leaves a vague result. There is no prediction whether these policies are actually failing or actually succeeding. For me, it would be more insightful or more informative if there is an explanation regarding the continuation of the policies. So we can know and we can actually analyze whether these policies are actually um, feasible in other states or even feasible in other continents such as Europe or Africa. So there is still a vague or still a gap between the results and the policies. And also, there is no specific monitoring body aside from the law enforcement. However, there's just no continuation among these journals. And when it comes to decrease the activities, there's actually no exact number of the victims, and it has become a challenge for the researchers, which I will further explain in the next part. So now let's continue on the correlation between the independent variable and the dependent variable. Based on the journals covered by Bryan and Landman, Gallagher and Holmes, Ford, Lyons, and Van Schindel, so it re-emphasize the role of UNODC with its mandate to actually create strategies to tackle and eradicate the issue of human trafficking. And with the establishment of Palermo Protocol, it continues to the state commitment taken by states in Southeast Asia to actually tackle the issue. However, due to the complexity of the issue, it demands more research and it demands a multi-dimensional approach. State commitments take forms through reforms, such as labor policies, criminal justice system, and law enforcement. However, these there is actually a plus and minus, a positive and negative when it comes to actually this question. UNODC does have a role, does have an influence to some extent in ensuring compliance among states. The strategies are actually tackling the problem areas. However, what's actually becoming a challenge is that UNODC does not have a binding power. UNODC cannot interfere towards the sovereignties or the prioritizations within states. Therefore, it creates a challenge. One of them is the challenge in data collection and reports. From the lack of coordination, the lack of intelligence sharing, it becomes hard to actually analyze the real exact numbers and the challenges within each state. Whether state A actually discovers how many percentage of victims and etc., as well as for other states. So there is still a gap between among states when it comes to coordination. However, luckily, there are some multilateral cooperations that actually take place in Southeast Asia to actually tackle this lack of coordination. And aside from the lack of coordination, the lack of accurate data on the exact number of victims, actually, it is a challenge because there is another issue of fear. The fear from the victims and the former victims actually became an obstacle for the researchers to actually measure the exact undocumented reports with the additional threat of violence, debt bondage, and data retention from the traffickers. The victims are trapped and these cases are often undocumented. So these are the list of sources and literatures that I've collected to review. In conclusion, of course, the role of UNODC is crucial in maintaining the international security. However, it does not always guarantee for state compliance and state commitment. It does affect several policies and it helps supported bilateral and multilateral negotiations. However, when it comes to the exact number, it is still a vague answer. That is all. Thank you very much.